I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to our combined series of Dave versus the MSM and Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings is to provide you information that you can network in this bucket brigade of truth to all those you know and love, especially over this holiday season. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday. But let's provide you an ongoing feast of information, facts, truth, data, science when needed, and a touch of inspiration. Because our adversary, whatever you want to call it, the globalist syndicate, the New World Order, the criminal international banking syndicate, the deep state, the shadow government, it's all the same entity. A group of individuals run by a group of families, banking families, that are intent on stripping not just you, not just me, not just all those we know, but the entire world, the world's population, of freedom and liberty. If that sounds sinister, it is. And many people that you know will say, well, if this is true, why haven't I really heard about it, other than these conspiracy theorists speaking about it? It's because every avenue of what some people still see out there in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor as the mainstream media, which I have dubbed the bought-off lamestream fake media, every tentacle in television, every network on cable, every newspaper, and close to every radio station, surely every syndicated radio host, has some type of tie to the syndicate. Either completely in the boat for the syndicate, or 1 foot in and 1 foot out, so-called controlled opposition. They tell you some things you need to know, but they always flavor it a little differently and then move on to something else. And never get down to the real gritty details. Some folks have dubbed this the dark age of information. Well, it only becomes the dark age of information if you and me do nothing about this. That sit on the couch, consume the bought-off lamestream fake media, don't talk to our friends, families, neighbors, co-workers, even though it can get a little, a little dicey. But they want us to be mute and not network truth, facts, data, and science. That's why the independent media, of which this platform is a portion of that independent media, is so critical for you. And why the holidays can be utilized not to aggravate or confront people, but to say, look, hey, give me your take on this issue. And then follow it with, have you ever thought of it a little differently? Let me provide you in the holiday tradition some food, not just on your plate, but food for thought. Don't discount what I'm about to tell you. Let me plant that seed. And let it germinate for a little bit. Think about it for some hours, days, weeks, might even be months. But don't discount it. Because I'm bringing you information that the sources you're currently using don't want you to know about, because they want you to lose your freedoms and your liberties. And invariably, Uncle Wally or your neighbor Sam or your coworker Ernie will look at it and you go, oh, that's a bit much. That's pretty that's hyperbole. Come on. And your response to that should be, well, if you don't believe what I just said, then please tell me what this whole operation was between December of 2019 with this and this, which is still ongoing. Tell me what all that was about. If government and if the media is really about my welfare and my freedom and my liberty, they were all behind this and lockdowns and staying mute, right? Social distancing, closing businesses, closing schools, closing everything, so people couldn't communicate. See, that's the dark age of information, when people buy into what they're being told by the bought-off lamestream fake media, or the, whatever you want to call them in government, urchins, I don't know, rodents. But 99.9% of the people you know that don't go anywhere near the independent media, such as this platform, are truly propagandized. It's not that they're dumb or they're ignorant. They're just, they've been put in an information and fact-free bubble. And that's not an accident or coincidence or from a bad set of circumstances or from incompetence. It's because it's the operation. Go back to Edward Bernays. Yeah. He is the godfather of propaganda. And he said this almost 100 years ago. Now, globalists have used Bernays' techniques over the years. And by doing that, they've accumulated more power, control, and more financial resources. And in the process, if you look at it critically, killed tens of millions of people in the process. Here's what Bernays said, quote, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society," end quotes. "Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government," oh, like the deep state, "which is the true ruling power of not just the United States, but every country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society in almost every aspect and act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct, or in our ethical thinking. We are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. Listen, it is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, which is why I have repetitively told you, getting a lot of grief for this, unplug the tube. Stop your subscriptions to whatever newspaper or magazine. The only magazine that's worthwhile is The New American, by the way, thenewamerican.com. Fantastic. Online and print. The New American. Yeah. But you haven't heard much about it because, well, they're also targeted just as my content is targeted. Which is why DaveJanda.com is so important, because it's censorship free. We're there 24/7. And a tremendous amount of free public. Just our news ticker. It's a news ticker you'll get from no other source. Oh, the deep state hates that. They have tried to undermine that website, and this is why our IT team, this is why it's so expensive to run an independent media site. Our IT team, 24/7, is knocking back intrusions, knocking back these folks that want to fool with the content. Join us at DaveJanda.com. You know, the free public side, and the news tickers on that. You know, you hit the news item on the ticker and it'll take you to a reference point. I don't know of any other news ticker that does that. Handmade by our IT team and monitored by our IT team. But also the subscription content is 30 cents a day, $9 a month, and content I can't discuss on social media platforms or on the radio because of deep state choke points in the FCC, not through Wham. Wham is the only station in the country that it's you want to, no general manager tells you what you can or can't say, or who you can or can't have on your show. Every other station, yes. Not Wham. But the FCC can pull Wham's license, so it can only go so far. And on social media, forget it. I am so suppressed. On YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. That's why our source is so troublesome for the deep state. Because it's 100% dedicated to truth, facts, data, and science. And because I have refused all support, other than from the subscribers, all support from sources within entities, let's call it, which is why I'm targeted, because I can't be controlled. I encourage you to go to davejanda.com, become part of our freedom family. But recently, a article was written about a new dark age of information. In particular, it was based on Dr. Bert Weinstein's presentation. Here's what was written. We are living through a systemic coordinated blinding of society, not an accident, at the hands of the deep state. That is the stark conclusion of Dr. Brett Weinstein, who argues that collapse of trust we see is not an accident, but a pattern of enemy action. Dr. Bert Weinstein has laid out a disturbing thesis. Every single institution dedicated to public truth-seeking is under simultaneous attack and is in a state of collapse. The evidence is everywhere. Bodies of experts fail utterly. Individual truth-tellers are coerced, marginalized, or forced out, and believe me, they've tried the coercion with us. They've tried the marginalization, all those, quote, former CIA people that try to target us. Yeah, former. No such thing as former, by the way. Once CIA, always CIA. Scum. Or forced out, and they try to do that every day. Research universities spend public money to reach preordained conclusions. That sound familiar? Legacy media reports crucial stories only after they become common knowledge, after the independent media has for years presented that information. The CDC has become a reverse thermostat for health, a guide for what not to do. The courts are weaponized against those who threaten the elite. This is not a series of mistakes, as the military adage goes, quote, once is a mistake, twice is a coincidence, and 3 times is enemy action, end quote. We are witnessing 100 examples or more on a daily basis. It's enemy action. The goal is to deny every person of the world the tools of enlightenment and the rights guaranteed by our Constitution. We are being steered into a fool's paradise, a new dark age, distinguished only by the sophisticated coercive power of those who would rule us. The pattern is unmistakable. The battle for the values of the West is here. We must recognize it, and we must fight it courageously. And we must win for the sake of our children and grandchildren and future generations to come, and that's not an overstatement. But many people say in a world filled with chaos, well, they're just so powerful, there's nothing I can do. Let's turn to Dale Sutherland of the Epic Times. There is power within our reach to make a difference, in spite of this chaos that has been created. Not an accident, not a coincidence, and not from incompetence. It's willfully created. Because out of chaos, the syndicate, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, always gains more power, control, and financial resources. The truth is, Dale Sutherland, the truth is meaningful change rarely begins at a global scale or within the halls of power. Remember, Tip O'Neill, when I first went to Washington to work on healthcare policy in '88 for Ronald Reagan, the Speaker of the House for years had been Tip O'Neill from Massachusetts. And he used to say, all politics is local. Change starts locally that down the line affects national policy. And he was not wrong. The truth is, meaningful change rarely begins at a global scale or within the halls of power. More often, it begins quietly in a household when ordinary people decide to act. We may not be able to control the headlines, but we can control our response to those headlines. We can choose compassion over cynicism, presence, getting off the couch, doing something, over passivity, and urgency, let's just deal with this now rather than wait, rather than delay. In a world that often feels out of control, that is the power within our reach. Yeah. It begins quietly, he said, and he's right. In your own house. And then you extend that reach to your neighbors. And they extend the reach to other neighbors. And before long, you have a neighborhood that is exercising its God-given rights and making an impact, because that neighborhood then affects that town or that city. And that town or that city then affects that county. And that county affects that state. And that state affects the feds. And at the national level, it then affects the world. Mm-hmm. The syndicate, the bankster families, don't want you to realize this. We have them outnumbered by billions to one. But the only way we have them outnumbered is if people get off the couch. Dale Sutherland concludes, chaos is global, but change is local. If each of us embraced responsibility in our own neighborhoods, we discover that while we cannot stop all the storms, all of which have been created by the syndicate, we can make our corner of the world by using our own efforts and exercising our communication skills with others. We can make our corner of the world, our neighborhood, our city, our state, our country, and the world, ultimately, a place of refuge and hope. The holiday season is about hope. The holiday season is about giving to others. But when we give to others, we're also giving to ourselves and our own future, aren't we? If we focus on the freedom side of the equation. We just finished Thanksgiving, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be thankful every day of the year. But our goal for the coming year should be to do something, educate someone, just one other person, if not more. Empower them, enlighten them. Because change is local and does spread like wildfire when it's based on pursuit of freedom and liberty and about the exercising of our God-given, not given by governments, God-given rights. Make this the best holiday season ever. My mom, the history teacher, her favorite quote from a historical character, as she called him, was Winston Churchill. You make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give. I believe each and every one of us can have an even greater and better life by continuously giving giving information, giving facts, giving truth, giving data, when needed, giving science to others, enlightening them. And that's exactly what our adversaries do not want to happen. Make it a great holiday season. I thank you for joining me today. We are available 24/7 at davejanda.com. Please visit us. You will never be sorry. You will be enlightened and educated and empowered, but you'll never be sorry. davejanda.com. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.